Okay, just kind of want to do a follow up on the Nebraska Cornhusker stuff I've mentioned over and over. Um, and maybe, I don't know, the reason why they lost to Iowa, I had talked about how I thought maybe they might be 6-6 at the end of the season. And that was only for the fact that 66 adds up to 149, just like Skull and Bones. And like Skull and Bones has a huge connection to the Nebraska defense. Skull and Bones also adds up to 41, the little one. But black shirts, Nebraska's defense adds up to 41. Just lots of other stuff that I didn't even type in here. But red N is 41. That's Nebraska's little logo. Husker fans, 41. They play Memorial Stadium, 41. But if you go way back, I talked about Nebraska was going to have a bad season because they killed the guy from Herbie on the movie Love Bug. Dean Jones died at the age of 84. Lots of 84 connections to Pope Francis. Pope Francis was the first Jesuit pope. Jesuit adds up to 84. Obama was born on 84. United States of America, I think is what it is, adds up to 84. But just wanted to point out Nebraska finished 3-5 in the Big Ten Conference, 35. I'd mentioned this in all of these videos because Herbie was number 53 on the car. So that's just the mirror, the 35. Also then, so who knows? They might even have one more game here, which would be pretty interesting. But they finished 5-7 so far. I mean, I can't even believe they might even get into a bowl game. But 5-7, and I've talked about all the connections of Abraham Lincoln and the connections to Obama and how I think they might assassinate Obama. But I mean, these are just a couple. Like I said, if you go back and watch, I have a playlist somewhere, or you can just go back and watch. I don't think I have all my videos in here, but I mean, if you go back and watch them, I talk about this a lot. And Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska equals 60. Abraham Lincoln equals 60. The Philadelphia connection is all to Moses Malone and Daryl Dawkins adds up to 60. Moses Malone died at the age of 60. Tons of other stuff with it, but just wanted to point that out. And the reason I mentioned that because Nebraska is 5-7, and Obama is the 56th and the 57th term president. So right now, he is currently serving the 57th term of any president. Interesting, he's the 56th term president, even. And I mean, 56 has just been so popular as of recent. I've noticed it in a lot of things. Here's just a short list here. Paris, France, 56. ISIS, 56. Just made the video on Kanye West. Kanye, 56. His wife, Kim Kardashian, 56. Osama bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, Adolf Hitler, Abraham Lincoln died at the age of 56 in the year 65 in Washington, D.C. That adds up to 56. Literally died in the month of April, the only month that adds up to 56. So April 56. And the only reason I'm bringing this back up is because from the help in my comments, I found out some other interesting stuff. Obama was actually in Paris and he did the Bataclan Memorial on November 29th, the 333rd day. Talked a lot about that with Philadelphia and whatnot. But I also found out that he gave the climate speech and it went 11 minutes over schedule. So he's in Paris doing the climate change talk and whatever. But literally, what are the odds of this? In Gematria, climate change, 56. He went 11 minutes over the time. 11 minutes, 56. Also, in regards to that, so I've talked about the Miami Dolphins connection to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. They used to have Richie Incognito. He was the bully, whatever, to Jonathan Martin. Richie Incognito adds up to 158. Jonathan Martin adds up to 158. And I can't think of the other guy who Jonathan Martin was actually mad because he had to switch spots and some other guy came in and his name added up to 158. Regardless, whatever, I have it in previous videos, but it's interesting because Richie Incognito from Nebraska. Then the Dolphins signed Ndamukong Suh this year. Ridiculous. The Dolphins are terrible. And Ndamukong Suh is from Nebraska. Also, Nebraska the Miami Dolphins have Zachary Bowman, who was the first black shirt ever to give up his black shirt or the right to be a black shirt. He plays for the Miami Dolphins this year, and now the Dolphins fire their offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor, and they hire this guy, Zach Taylor, right? Zachary Taylor, like the president, the 12th president of the United States. And interesting, this guy died at the age of 65 in Washington, D.C. Maybe not so surprising, he was the president of Washington, D.C. Interesting, it adds up to 56, though. But age 65, let me check this out. His name, Zachary Taylor. Zachary Taylor in Gematria. So he dies age 65, and his name adds up to 65. Just like Philadelphia. I mean, anyway, back to here. So, Iowa beats Nebraska to get into the Big Ten championship game, and Michigan State beats Penn State to get into the Big Ten championship game. And I mean, it's pretty crazy because I've talked about how the movie Tommy Boy all ties into this, and literally, Tommy Boy's in Sandusky, Ohio, and it's Callahan Auto Parts. Callahan was one of the coaches at Nebraska. He even mentions Herbie Hancock instead of John Hancock. John Hancock died at the age of 56. He was the first of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, Penn State in Philadelphia. And the reason why it's significant is because when Jerry Sandusky got fired, him and Paterno, Nebraska was the first team to play Penn State. And watch this little clip here. This is even more proof that I know that they're doing it this year and that they are doing it with Tommy Boy. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Watch it, a minute 12. I'll pause it here. I'm going to turn the sound off so I don't get copyright, but he drops his book as he's running to class here. Look at this. The American history book, the American flag, history. Look at the number. Why was there a number scribbled on the bottom here? What is that number? 239. This is the 239th year of the United States. A lot more with this number. Number 52 was coded all over this year. 52, or the 52nd prime is even 239. The Pope, if you do this as a date, it would be 23-9 or 923. The Pope came to the United States on his 923rd day, went to the White House on 923 at 9:23 a.m. Anyway, in this movie, he also attends Marquette University. I mean, what an interesting place. It's literally a co-educational Jesuit Roman Catholic university. Established on August 28th, 1881 by the Society of Jesus. Interesting. Society of Jesus in Gematria even adds up to 56. And I've talked a lot about assassinated presidents. I mean, James Garfield even died in the year 1881, the same year that university was established. He died at the age of 49. We talked about the number 91. Pearson L. whatever on Nebraska, his name even adds up to 91. 91 was like an elimination number. He's out. He hurt himself celebrating, supposedly. It's all fake. It's a lie. It's ridiculous. But this September 19th, if you write that out in Gematria, it adds up to 91. November 19th, if you write that in Gematria, adds up to 91. This guy was even shot at the train station. I've talked about the Philadelphia train wreck. The train wreck that happened at 9:23 p.m., going 106 miles an hour. The engine number was 601. 10:6 and 9:23 are the same when you convert them Gregorian to Julian. Even September 19th, the day he died, 919, kind of like 91 and 91. But I guess sorry to be so unorganized here, but I just didn't know how to go about doing this. So anyway, Michigan State beat Penn State. I mean, look at the score here, 55-16. So Michigan State scores 55 points, and now they're going to play Iowa. Iowa Hawkeyes adds up to 55. Tyler Sash also was a sacrifice this year. He died on 9/8. That is Lupercalia, the sacrifice of the wolf. And I've talked about Michigan and Michigan State. Michigan State's even in the Wolverine state, so it's kind of confusing. That's what I think Iowa's going to win, but I've noticed 55 associated with death. But Tyler Sash in Gematria even adds up to 55. This website doesn't do the S exception where instead of 1, because when you break it down, S would be 10, so it would have to be either 10 or 1 plus 0. So if you do the 10, it would be 55. I also find it interesting, Ohio State and Michigan. So if Michigan State would have lost to Penn State, the winner of this game would have played Iowa. And look at the score. If you add it up even, it would add up to 55. Talked about it's all about Lupercalia and the wolf and whatnot. Michigan is the Wolverines. Christopher Farley, even adds up to 98. Remember Tyler Sash, I said, died on 9/8. Tom Brady, a former Michigan Wolverine, even became the starter in the year 98, but his name adds up to 98. Jim Harbaugh, 98. When I think of Tommy Boy, I think of the part where he's like saying all the numbers. Yeah, I called, and he says, I called Niner. And he said, was there a Niner in there? But whatever. And he used to be the coach of the 49ers, whatever. Pope Francis and San Francisco both add up to 122, both named after St. Francis of Assisi. The moral of the story here, Michigan Wolverines adds up to 98. Think of the Super Bowl last year when they had the Snickers Brady Bunch commercial. Brady Bunch even adds up to 98. And remember, Alice from the Brady Bunch died last year at the age of 88. And 3 days later, Tom Brady sold his house to Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre adds up to 49. He was born on the 49th day of the year. From what I can remember, he was even 49 years old at the time. So they were telling you Tom Brady was going to win Super Bowl 49. He's even married to Gisele Bundchen, right? And it was the Brady Bundchen house. I mean, come on. Give me a break. Tom Brady, even a San Francisco native. Also, in regards to this game, so Ohio State has beat Michigan the last 3 years, and they scored 42 points every year. Even Ohio State was ranked number 8, and in 1985 was the last time that Iowa was ranked number 1, the same year that the Royals won the World Series. The only team that they lost to that year was Ohio State, and Ohio State was even ranked number 8. But Ohio State beats Michigan with a score of 42 in the years 2013, 14, and 15, kind of like Lupercalia, that falls on February 13th, 14th, and 15th. Interesting though, 42, Iowa City adds up to 42. That's where the Iowa Hawkeyes play. Iowa that year in 1985 also beat Michigan, who was ranked number 1. And interesting, Michigan's ranked number 10 right now. And the 1985 Iowa Hawkeyes finished their season ranked number 10 because they lost the bowl game. And that really makes me wonder about Iowa winning, because I've seen 55 a lot as like a sacrifice number. I mean, the Planned Parenthood shooting thing, this was the guy, Robert L. Deere. His name adds up to 55. Supposedly killed this cop. His name adds up to 55. Jeff Gordon just lost in NASCAR his last season. His name adds up to 55. Even in the World Series, number 55 hit the 55th pitch, and he got thrown out at first, and then there was a blackout. It was the second blackout of the World Series in the game 1. And it was also in the 5th inning. So 55th pitch, number 55 in the 5th inning. I mean, come on. And they even blamed the power going out on Rob Lowe and Fred Savage. Savage adds up to 55. Lowe adds up to 55. He's even the bad guy on Tommy Boy. Iowa University was even founded 168 years ago. Talked about this over and over. Queen Elizabeth II, 168. New York Mets, 168. They even play in Queens. They didn't win, so who knows, Taylor Swift, Beyonce Knowles. But Michigan State University adds up to 111. Queen Elizabeth was born on the 111th day of the year. The World Series ended on 11-1. Tons of stuff with that. It'll be an interesting game to watch. It's even on the mirror day of the Philadelphia train wreck. That's 9/23 on the Hebrew calendar. Also, the 239th anniversary of Phi Beta Kappa, where Skull and Bones came